How's it going, everybody? My cup of tea here, back to the reaction video, and it's time to watch some more Warhammer videos. Yay, yay. I think it's been like a couple weeks since you last watched a Warhammer video, so let's start with watching some more. So today we're going to be watching the Imperium's 10 Worst Jobs, Warhammer 40,000 Lore / History. And this was requested by AlmaBrax05. Bam, shouts out to you, AlmaBrax, shouts out to you. Thank you for the request. I'm curious, like, how bad can these jobs be? Because I see like there's like 3 different parts to this. So I'm curious, like, what do they mean by worst jobs? Like worst jobs to do, like it risks your life, or like worst jobs as in like your morals, like maybe you gotta like take out a lot of people against your will. I don't know. I'm scared because Warhammer could be like some crazy stuff. I don't know what to expect, really. I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not that bad. I'm just overthinking it. It's not that bad. Like, come on, it can't be that. No, it can't be that bad. Let's just watch this. It's gonna be light work. It's gonna be light stuff, like feeding animals or whatnot. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Luton. Hopefully I said that right. There's only war. Yep, that is Warhammer. Just chaos, war, dying bodies. When people forget their duty, they are no longer humans. They become something less than beasts. They have no place in the bosom of humanity, nor in the heart of the Imperium. Let them die and be quickly forgotten. Holy Synoid of the Adaptus Ministrum. Okay. Also, yeah, this first, like this part right here, you know, I can already tell humans are crazy. They're no longer humans. They're just evil beings that have human forms. Alright, the worst Imperium job. Let me put on captions. It's already on. Okay.
When we look at the lives of those serving the Imperium, we must also understand that it is assumed that all of their service is at the behest and honour of serving the Emperor of Man and the Imperium itself. While the official line from the Administratum would be that to give yourself in whatever means are required for the betterment of the Imperium is a noble cause, just and above all else a required task, it's worth remembering that these people are still humans serving in the Imperium, not superhuman Astartes or fanatical religious zealots, not cultish machine worshippers or drug-crazed hive gang members, just your average person trying to stay alive and do the best that they can.
And you guys out there
undoubtedly, citizens of the Imperium know that they give to a greater cause and are indoctrinated from birth into the imperial truth. At the same time, you can't escape the harsh realities of some of the worst jobs imaginable for those poor saps who end up designated with such a plight in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium.
Okay,
also, I think a short disclaimer is in order. By our standards, most jobs in the Imperium are often not really what you would quantify as jobs. You might simply be compelled by your seniors toward a role that then becomes your lot in life. There's really no true unified or standardized currency system within the Imperium itself either. To do so would be challenging, if not impossible, given the distant scale and general instability of the Imperium as a whole. While hive cities, for example, may use credits within them, or other planets operate on a more basic bartering system, some even using coinage. There's also the throne geld, which is likely as close to being a universal payment as exists, and this is often used by, say, rogue traders and inquisitors who are traveling between systems. Overall,
yeah, I just assumed that they had like a universal like coin system or monetary like system. Okay, interesting. Alright.
Overall, though, there's no unified economic system. It's all based on tithes and requirements for the Imperium's needs. It's all fairly inconsistent. While some jobs are paid and unpaid, it's often unlikely that you're going to have a literal choice in what your assigned lot in life is. People aren't going to be going out to school and then choosing a vocation, although obviously for some jobs, some roles,
I assume there was a school in the universe.
Moderate education is required so that you can best interact with the materials and data slates that you're having to handle.
Yeah, that
but
makes
you
sense,
as an individual are an unimportant speck in the grand scheme of the Imperium, and you will do what is required of you, because that is your reality. Moreover, most of the Imperium trades in commodities. This can be raw materials, military hardware, and very often humans. So more than likely you are an asset and will be utilized however the Imperium sees it. The best way to visualize currency in the Imperium is that it's all system specific for the most part, and within a hive, for one, you are likely never going to leave, and so its credit system would be very specific to that location. There's no need for it to exist outside of that. Think of it like company money. You get paid by the person you're working for, who then also happens to simultaneously produce all of your other requirements. So you then are being paid by and paying back into that same company. It's a good way to basically regulate what the citizenry are using and ensure that everybody gets their fair or perhaps basic requirement share of things.
And they determine it too in these certain
Now you think
systems.
you've got a worse 40k job in mind? Well, throw it down in the comments and maybe I'll include it in part 2 of this if I do a follow-up. If you guys enjoy this and we open it up to even some more loose speculation for different parameters and different aspects of Warhammer 40,000, this could become an ongoing accompanying series. So now in no actual order of horror, to begin with, servitors.
Wait, before he does that. So yeah, depending on how this goes, we might watch part 2, part 3. Let me know down below, like after we finish watching this video. But yeah, servitors, let's get it. What is this?
Now for reasons we won't get into here, within the Imperium, any advanced state of artificial intelligence is aggressively outlawed. So instead, the ever-ingenious humanity of the future has found a fantastic solution to get around this problem, because we are, after all, always such great problem solvers. The solution? Well, as is always the case, there is a plentiful supply of human plebs, criminals, and general undesirables. So how about we part lobotomize them, hopefully they get the gift of being mind-wiped, and then fuse what's left of their still living but now eviscerated carcasses into a somewhat functional cyborg. It's not really AI, and it's not really human. Problem solved, everybody's happy.
We can't have AIs, we'll just make them.
Participants of becoming a servitor. Servitors are a vital part of the Imperium, carrying out tasks too dangerous or too enduring for humans to want to take on the role. Although if no servitor were available and push comes to shove, you know that somebody's going to have to install that hyper-dangerous fuel system, and it's not going to be any officer types.
So it's basically like a throwaway job. It was like, hey, no one's going to do this. We're going to force you to do this. We're going to mess up your brain. We're going to force you to do these jobs.
Servitors are questionably necessary. They are a sad and incredibly depressing portrait of the dark future. And it's very questionable given the fairly immoral state of humanity in the 41st millennium, just how well lobotomized these individuals are if they're not mind-wiped. Servitors, while carrying out their instructed functions, if left to their own devices, have been seen to become confused and disorientated, sometimes found in a lost corner of a starship or missing in the maze of a hive city, babbling to themselves with a sea of incomprehensible speech, with perhaps some scant details of their former selves and former lives, perhaps trying to formulate some cognition or sense of who they were before. Worse still, we hear stories of people who undergo surgery appearing to be under anesthetic, but are in fact just paralyzed and fully conscious. So it broaches the possibility that some or even many servitors are actually fully aware of the lives they are living, and with full awareness and memory of even their former lives, but who then simply lack the ability to speak or even control their own bodies, trapped in a silent, monotonous and potentially unending agony in the prisons they have been physically melded into. One of probably the most common and unpleasant tasks to partake in within the Imperium would be working in its vast factories. Now, planets with hive cities will usually be spattered with important resources, and their factories will then churn out any number of processed materials necessary for the functioning of their hive and or required by order of the Imperium off-world. The administrators and governors will not care how these orders are fulfilled, only that they are completed on time as required. This subsequently means the conditions for workers are just about as awful as you could imagine. Toxic, acrid air, long 20-hour shifts, pay, and squalid, cramped living conditions. Still, for most people at this level of society, it's probably the best they could hope for.
That's the best?
Mobility is not a thing, and the only other options being to slip into vagrancy and an underhive of horrors. Even then, this is a class of citizen who no one will blink an eye if somebody goes missing for whatever horrible reason. They're still grinding day after day in a factory of hot, dangerous, and likely condemning you to a slow, agonizing death as your body is ravaged by fulfilling your work quota, coupled with the slow poisoning it receives every day, is hardly an appealing alternative, but it's the best that many can hope for. An Imperial Guardsman. While a Guardsman is obviously an honourable and respected role for those in the Imperium, because frankly anybody forced to face down a 40-foot high lumbering alien killing machine who will in all likelihood either cleave you in two, strip the skin from your body leaving you running around screaming like a skinned animal,
I am just a man with a
bludgeon
gun.
you to a pulp, or maybe bombard you with projectiles full of acidic boring maggots deserves a reasonable level of respect, even if that service was in fact non-consensual. As with many military roles in the Imperium, guardsmen serve with a duality of horrific warfare experience coupled with unceasing immortal honor. Because of the extreme casualty rates, most guardsmen are equipped with simply a lasgun, because why give them more than that when they're not going to be around to use it?
Damn. Wow, okay. I mean, it makes sense, but that just, wow. All right, yeah, you're throwable. Here's a lasgun. It's probably not even an effective gun to most of these things we're fighting against. Yeah, what you thought you wanted them great guns like the bolt gun? You think you wanted that? I don't know what the bolt gun is, but I've been hearing about it. You thought you wanted the bolt gun? You hear this guy, Johnson? This guy wants a bolt gun? He's crazy. Take this last gun and go home and fight.
Lasgun being a weapon
for the honor of the Emperor.
A flashlight because of its extremely poor effectiveness against the severe threats faced by the Imperium. Other heavy weaponry for its soldiers are available, as well as some devastatingly powerful tanks.
Okay, here we go. Yeah,
air support. But for your average man on the ground, bad luck. You get the lasgun. While Imperial propaganda will tell the glory of serving in the Imperium, the reality is fairly disconnected from this stirring and glorifying rhetoric.
That seems to be
the phrase
better
battle of attrition
so far,
comes
the best
quickly
job
to
so
mind
far.
for many guardsmen who will not receive much, if any, personal body armor. Unlike their superhuman Astartes saviors, nope, you're going into battle with the shirt on your back, and as an individual, no one is going to be stopping to help you when you lose a limb or worse.
Dang.
And the word expendable will be very much on your commander's lips. Now, if it isn't bad enough that you're facing a nightmarish host of Xenos, your commissar will be standing right behind you, ready to kill you or your newfound friends on the slightest hint of your hesitation, or perhaps simply to just motivate those around you. Unless you have qualified for a specialist division or an elite force within the Guard, you're more than likely going to become Operation Human Shield. And if by some miracle you manage to survive the horrific conditions of battling alien horrors with little more than a gun that shoots light, having watched many around you die in the most unbearable of circumstances, and then still have your sanity intact, not to mention hopefully not having your body be completely broken, there's nothing to say that an orbiting Astartes or Inquisition may not simply decide that things are not going quite as well as they'd expected, and decide that in fact an orbital bombardment might best serve the fast resolution of the situation. And your service is appreciated, Guardsmen. If you feel like you're having a bad day and want to voice your concerns to those around you, this is not advisable.
I know that's a bad idea.
Standing by to silence you for potentially damaging unit morale. But like so many aspects of the Imperium, the most hollow element is the fact that in serving your family, your planet, and your Imperium, you will not be remembered, and will be 100% left behind if the situation warrants it. You will not be receiving a flashy service, or your family informed of your demise. You are but one of millions upon millions of soldiers. While some planets are focused around specialist skills and military training, many more are unwitting or even unwillingly drafted. You will not receive special genetic engineering. You get your gun, your orders, and a direction to advance. Now get on with it, Guardsmen, before your own officer shoots you for failure to follow command.
Wow, okay, well, now is that the best job so far? I don't know anymore. I mean, I know there's no servitor. That's probably the worst one we heard so far. You don't even have control of your body. Memories might be erased, lobotomized, forced to do. Yeah, that's the worst one so far. But is the Guardsmen worse than the manufacturers? I don't know. I have no idea. Let's keep it going. We'll talk more about it later.
Next, in direct contrast, is the dull monotony of bureaucracy. You are the grease and oil in the machine as an administrative scribe. While many lives in the Imperium are pain-ridden and lives of frustrating physical agony, there is an argument to be made that endless perpetual administration is equally unbearable. The role of an administrator or an administrative scribe is to perpetually carry out tasks that must seem simply entirely pointless in the grand scheme of things. Your daily tasks lost amid a vast ocean of information. Your whole being lost in reams and reams of paper trails, and even the purpose and intent of your tasks are potentially lost to meaning, or possibly even no longer required, having been long forgotten about. Billions of clerks, scribes, and general admin staff work tirelessly to manage the Imperium at every here. Compared to others, this may seem like a sweet job to land
does sound
yourself,
like a sweet job.
but imagine having to do the same thing every day, without end, without opportunity, and without meaning. In many respects, it's the closest thing to hell for many.
Yeah, you're basically
Pointless
dead,
tasks
but not
with
really.
No thanks or appreciation, no sense of really contributing anything to the greater whole, cold, harsh working conditions, still subject to the same brutal rules and regulations that dictate all Imperial life. Indeed, the very nature of the complex bureaucracy that is strictly enforced allows little room for error. Regulations, forms, protocols, and process is your life. Worse perhaps is to live a life of blind ignorance of the goings-on beyond the walls and confines of your endless daily data processing. Many administrative positions are considered hereditary as well, so you'll be committed to a life of permanent placement facing logic engines and cogitator workstations. For an administratum scribe working in their specific sub-departments, all must be recorded, catalogued, completed in quadruplet, processed, and then as long as centuries later, finally archived. The whole process is grindingly slow and dull beyond the strongest possible interpretation of the word. And as a final insult, you must fulfill your role accurately and efficiently for the entirety of your servitude. Failure to do so risks intervention by the Inquisition. Administrative departments who have failed to maintain an acceptable level of efficiency, or worse, make a catalogue of errors, may be subject to mass summary executions by inquisitors for crimes against the Imperium. As a simple cog in a machine, you could also unknowingly participate in a scheme of upward conspiracy and corruption and be judged for this without even having been aware of doing so.
Not
a thankless,
true. Wait,
soul-destroying job where you'll likely never see anything beyond the incarcerated walls of your administrative vault sector. Now
So it's like, it's an important job, but you won't deem it as important because you're just doing the same thing over and over again. Well, kind of important.
Human batteries, otherwise known as psychers, used to fuel the Emperor atop of his
sounds
golden
good. That sounds good, like a good job.
Unsanctioned psychers are continually hunted by the Imperium, and when discovered they will likely be transported off-world to return to Terra in what are referred to as the much-feared Black Ships. As an unsanctioned psyker, you'll be assigned to one of two roles for the Imperium. Training to a full operating psyker or a psychic human battery to fuel the Emperor and the Astronomican's daily required injection of psychic power. Unsanctioned psychers represent a great threat to populations as they run the risk of unwittingly becoming a portal for demonic incursion. And those imprisoned within its cavernous, permanently dark, freezing cold holds on the journey back to Terra, with thousands of other unfortunate members being probably the most harrowing part of the ordeal, as these untrained psychers will expel their panicked and fraught emotions all around them. As such, only the most mentally strong Sisters of Silence will crew these vessels so as to be able to withstand the constantly soul-numbing despair of the incarcerated amateur psychers. For the majority of these poor souls, upon reaching Terra itself, their fate will be psychic disintegration as they're consumed by the Emperor and the Astronomican, their very mind, soul and body being consumed in agonizing psychic fire.
Oh, they're experiencing pain too?
Ashes.
Oh my god.
But it does keep the Imperium's lighthouse lit for another day at least.
Yay! Okay, don't want to do
An
that
unpleasant but perhaps at least highly appreciated task to carry out in your service for the Imperium is that of refueling a starship warp drive.
This one can't sound bad.
Documentation on who specifically carries out this role, but it is described as being similar to a funeral procession. Those chosen to carry out the task will begin by leaving an airlock to cross the service deck of a ship, wearing robes of grey metallic thread connected up with valves of long cabling, all wearing thick lead gloves as they carry their heavy metal caskets upon their shoulders. The service staff's eyes, nose and mouth will be similarly fitted with these connective valves. The unknown material they carry within these caskets evidently being extremely hazardous, for as these individuals cross to their objective, their flesh, skin will slowly cook and be burned away. This process being described by tech priests as the most perilous operation a vessel could undertake, barring actual combat. As the procession of staff would approach the warp drive central column, the casket carriers would become even further physically damaged and even start to disintegrate, but being driven perhaps by the chemicals and gases being infused into them as pain suppressors and some chemical concoction to enable them to carry out such a task, they lumber forward. But the closer the carriers come to the drive itself, the more they begin to stagger and their metallic robes deteriorate. Their infused chemicals keeping them barely standing as their bodies begin to quite literally fall apart, chunks of flesh and matter falling from their person as they push on to deliver their fuel to the drive. The casket would be finally pushed into a socket of the drive column as some of the carrier's limbs would detach and strips of muscle and bone hang down from their gaping lobes.
Yeah,
Servitor-like machines would collect
it's not a
the
good
remains of the carriers and scrape these into yet more caskets before tech priests offer prayers to the machine god. With the last great effort, the final casket bearers would load their fuel into the drive before the doors would rapidly shut. The robed shells would now be retracted to the entry point, and the ship's captain might be heard to utter, "Emperor, preserve us," before finally turning away from the harrowing scene playing out on the engineering deck of their starship. Imagine life in something...
Is that like a one-job thing, like a one-trip, like you take the casket, that's it, you're done. You're not coming back because your body is disintegrated. That's like a one-time job. It's like a one-time thing because you're not coming back because you're basically dead at that point. Do people even come back from that? Because it sounds like if you get that far, you deliver the casket, you're obsolete. Like, even if you do survive it somehow, your body parts are falling off, you can't deliver one again, you're done. You're donezo. It might just put you into the coffin. It's a really bad job. I've not heard like a single, like, okay, this could be good. The only one that could be good, kind of, maybe, is the guardsman, because you might get a quick death. I don't know.
Something like the on the engineering deck of their starship.
I'm trying to find something positive in this.
Imagine life in something like the 13th century. Essentially the Middle Ages, where anything like 90% of the population spend all of their time every day working the land. This is life on a feudal world. There are a few citizens with specific jobs working stone and metals, but your average person's life is doomed to endless hard labour. This physically destroying job is carried out from dawn to dusk, year-round, with the populace likely surviving on a meagre supply of its own productivity. A high mortality rate of disease and infection, industrial accidents with primitive machinery or domestic complications like no medicine to prevent women from dying in childbirth. This all in and of itself sounds hard enough of a life, but imagine, if you will, the job of a feudal gong farmer. Now what is this scintillating job? Well, it's collecting the mess of medieval latrines and cesspits, bringing it manually outside the city or a town to be used as fertilizer for farming. You do get the privilege of searching through the waste if you choose to find any valuables, and by the way, you also have to work only during the night. And here's hoping you don't pass out from the fumes you're inhaling and potentially drown in the stuff you're having to rake out every night. And for those on a feudal world, to top it off, an Imperial administrator will be watching from an orbital platform, and that's about all the defenses your planet has. So let's hope no blood-crazed orcs, hungry tyrannids, or immoral demons come wandering by.
I want to be born as an orc. Please let me be an orc.
If you thought working a feudal planet or in a factory from material processing in a hive was bad, don't be so ungrateful, citizen. You have a privileged life compared to those poor souls working in agri-processing.
Oh, how
this is going to vary from planet to planet.
Hold on. What was the title? Agro labor.
Hive was bad.
How so? How unfortunate are these people? How unfortunate are they?
Working in
it can't be that unfortunate.
While this is going to vary from hive planet to planet, some of the worst of this is processing what's referred to as corpse starch and ration biscuits, both unpleasant in their own way. As populations for the massive ecologies known as hive cities become quite simply ridiculous, housing anything between 10 and 100 billion citizens, the need for sustenance is obviously difficult to provide for.
Yes, that's a lot
While
of
you
people.
may be lucky enough to save up your credits and purchase a delicious chunk of rat meat, you're more than likely going to be enjoying some delicious ration bars or corpse starch. But how do workers produce such luxuries? Well, ration bars are best described as horribly greasy, generally unpopular, shockingly, and are biscuit bars to feed workers, serfs, and military forces. They're manufactured by harvesting bio-rich matter from ocean planets and worlds with seas, which then provides a protein-rich gruel. This, though, would be not enough to provide for the billions of citizens, so it must be instead fed to larvae of the Orochian bilefly. Now when these larvae reach an optimal stage in their life cycle, when they're plump enough, the larvae are going to be pulped by workers and compressed down into the hard-to-stomach biscuit ration bars. The agri-workers doing this process will work in huge air-sealed pens that produce these plump fat larvae. If you're working in one of these places, then things are not going to be going well for you. And you're probably quite low down in your hive city, as the stench and endless droning vibrations and mechanical sounds of the bileflies is not one that many would choose to live with. Still though, it could be worse. You could be producing corpse starch, which is about as appealing as it sounds. This material is bland, filling, and relatively nutritious because it's basically reconstituted biomatter mixed with animals, plants, discarded organics, and of course rumoured to include human corpses as well. While this is undoubtedly frowned upon by various administrative departments of the Imperium, it's one of those things that a planetary governor is going to either sweep under the rug, play down, or full-on cover up. It's never out and out a disclosed ingredient, but highly suspected that one way the population are able to be adequately fed is the mechanical reclamation of human biomatter, albeit then diluted by various other organic materials. It's like so many things in the Imperium, on the borderline of being acceptable. And when faced with limited options for feeding your population, the alternative being violent food riots, then it becomes a necessary evil. Pity though the workers who have to work in the stinking immoral environment and thus process endless stinking vats of biomatter, perhaps seeing some things that are going to be difficult to forget as you catch your eager 4 hours of rest before getting back into the production line.
I mean, like, is it really? It is. It's pretty bad. Is this the Avis? Oh no. Oh no. Not the assassins.
I am yet to cover the assassins of the Imperium.
I know about
one
these
aspect
people.
in being selected to work as an Imperial assassin is their pre-training. Now, as with most Imperial roles, it's quite unpleasant.
Wait, is it the one where it's like
the role of the Eversa Temple, which disturbingly leans towards using the youngest recruits, as they are less developed and therefore easier to bioadapt later in surgery. To start off with, most recruits will be orphans from a death world, of which there are quite unsurprisingly a plentiful supply in the Imperium. These recruits, after some base training, will be transported to Terra, but en route they will continue to be trained by a survival of the fittest assessment. These very young recruits will engage in what can best be described as an ongoing battle royale of wills, initiative, and resolve. Recruits are required to survive on minimal food, even minimal oxygen, for days on end, as well as continual forced fighting between themselves. This could be armed, unarmed, in near total darkness, or distracting aural and lighting conditions. Heat, cold, varying levels of gravity from the thin to the severe all will be factors in their assessment. When they eventually reach Terra, there could be anything below 1/10 of the original number of recruits who have survived this harrowing ordeal, or perhaps not at all if their assessors deem them unsatisfactory to requirements.
So you just murder them all?
Will then be organised by the temple they are best suited for. Eversa assassin recruits face, though, the further horror of being now forcibly bioengineered. These youngest recruits, who are essentially children, will be turned through this process into unstoppable drug-fueled killing machines. To achieve this, the Medicus adepts will use a range of genetic adaptation, endoskeletal restructuring, bionic implants, and infusions of chemicals to turn the previously human youth into a nightmarish weapon that can barely be controlled by its own leaders. Their cerebral cortex will also be enhanced and the brain fitted with Lobo chips. These will amplify the assassin's state of mind to either raging hate, pure determination, or extreme fanatical drive for the love of the Imperium at any cost. This whole process is unpleasant and far from risk-free. Many subjects will die of massive multi-organ collapse as their bodies struggle to handle the severe restructuring. And this is not to mention the inevitable side effects from being turned into a bio-enhanced, drug-fueled, borderline if not psychotic killing machine. Past this point, the assassin will continually attempt to balance the complex cocktail of chemicals that's fueling and simultaneously poisoning their system. Finally, at the end of all this, the assassin will be placed in cryosuspension, their bodies so drug-fueled and their own mindset so completely unstable that it's easier than keeping them actively conscious. Before a mission, they're going to be placed into a drop pod and then fired down to achieve their task. Becoming an Eversa assassin is likely one of the worst jobs in the Imperium, as your life is nothing but soul-destroying pain and servitude to be stripped of everything you were and used as an indiscriminate weapon of the Imperium.
That might be the worst job. I thought it was going to be servitors. That might be the worst job. Because again, you're a kid. They basically kidnap you. Like, alright, fight to survive. For like, how long? Oh, you done fighting. You passed the session. Good job. Now we're going to change your entire life. We're going to put some organs into you. We're going to put you on drugs. We're going to mess up your mind. And we're going to make you fight. We're going to make you keep fighting for the rest of your life until you die. It's going to be a short life. That's definitely the worst job so far.
Now, penal legions are the dregs
Penal
of
legion.
Imperial society,
Okay.
so you can imagine these are some less than capable individuals. These are usually members of the Imperial Guard and PDF who have perhaps not been executed on the spot for their crimes and instead commuted to a life sentence in the loosest definition of the word. However, a penal legion can be easily made up of murderers, maniacs, thieves, in general criminal elements of society,
so it's not
or just
that
those
bad.
who are far too incompetent in their duties and have been sentenced to play some more
well, it depends
mildly
on
useful role for the
what makes it
Imperium.
a criminal?
These legions, though,
Warhammer.
unfortunately, are basically the waste dump of human society and are forced to wear explosive slave collars that are more about turning the troops into human bombs than a disciplinary incentive. They march in a shambolic way towards their goal, or perhaps run if they're crazed, and then perhaps to just encourage those around them with whatever they're meant to be doing. Maybe a few of them will be blown up and detonated.
Oh, just
here
for
and
funsies?
there. But is this the job we're talking about? Well, no. In fact, what we're actually sparing a thought toward are those tasked with maintaining control over these plebs. Penal Legion overseers essentially have the unfortunate task of herding a bunch of shambolic, potentially murderous and psychopathic cats. Some of the Penal Legion will relish their role and accept their death running headlong into the enemy, but others may fall into mental ruin, just falling to the floor, crying, unable to move. Others
hold on. Did I mishear it? Let me make sure.
Of herding a bunch of shambolic, potentially murderous and psychopathic cats. Some of the Penal Legion will relish their role and accept their death running headlong into the enemy, but others may fall into mental ruin, just falling to the floor, crying, unable to move. Others may try to run away or simply just lash out and kill those standing around them. As frustratingly soul-destroying as such a task is, those commanding a Penal Legion are usually well versed in dealing out punishment, cruelty and incentives to their force, and will lay down brutal levels of discipline. Despite this professionalism though, it's still likely one of the most frustrating roles to have to command in, with a force who are potentially just as happy killing each other and themselves as they are the enemy.
I'm not gonna lie. That sounds like the best job so far. That's a crazy picture I paused on. I see it in the top left. That might be the best job so far. I don't know. It's just like you're commanding these people, so you have like the authority to like. Let me just play it. Let me just play it. I don't want to. Let me just play it.
So now to finish,
say something wild.
I'm gonna have to break your immersion. But the truest, worst job that could exist in 40k is, well, whatever you can draw from your own imagination. Because this might seem like a cop-out, but it's actually the real bedrock of 40k. Because while it has embedded canon and non-canon lore, it's also a world whereby you, as a participant, are encouraged to use your own imagination. The civilian life of the Dark Future is very poorly documented, and really we only have scraps of information compared to the endless raging warfare that is ongoing between various factions. The civilian life of the Imperium is perhaps one of the most interesting aspects that exists in the 40k universe, and if Games Workshop will not expand upon it, maybe it's time we start doing so ourselves with some wild speculations and imaginings. The whole thing with 40k is that the Imperium itself is so fractured and spread across countless systems with vast distances in between, it's really hard to focus in on some of the details of different worlds. Now this has happened very, very slowly over time with little fragments of information, but some could be, for example, nightmarish gulags, while others could be verdant, lush garden worlds of pleasure. Others could be more Earth-like with all the complex goings-on of human life that this entails, or you could be living in a horrific hive city or toxic choking forge world, or have a planet that's being cut off from the Imperium due to a simple administrative error, forced to go its own way with the vague hope of one day being rediscovered if it's not destroyed by some other alien process in the meanwhile. And this for me is one of the most enjoyable parts of Warhammer 40,000. You can use your own imagination to build a whole narrative given the existing lore and framework of the factions within it. Often the world of 40k draws on real world history, and it's something that I really love the idea of doing in creating whole descriptions of planets and locations that are non-canon and entirely fictional. Perhaps this is something I'll find time to do, perhaps it's something you guys would be interested in me doing. In the meanwhile, worst jobs canon or not, tell me down below what's the worst thing you can come up with. I'm probably going to regret asking that, but let's see. As always guys, thanks for watching and thank you for your support.
Not going to want to watch the second episode, the second part. Okay. Oh, I didn't mean to pause it. Interesting. That was a very interesting video. Hold on. Each man executed is a man who can no longer serve, and to fail in service to the Emperor is the greatest of the sins. Lemon Rust, Primarch of the Space Wolves, the Vikings. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, sure. You know, I want to do these jobs, but sure, man. If you say so, Lehman Russ. something called the best jobs. I doubt it. Actually, no, being a, what's he call it? Inquisitor? That might be one of the best jobs. But yeah, here we go. The top 10 worst jobs, part 1. We heard some pretty bad jobs. Again, the excavators, the assassins. They're probably, you know what? Hold on. Alright, I'm back. I want to do something a little bit interesting. Since the guy, he didn't like rank him on a scale of 1 to 10, I decided, why don't I do it? Why not me do it? Someone who is new to Warhammer, why don't I rank the top 10 worst jobs? So let's rank it from like, okay, this job isn't that bad to, oh dear Neptune, that job is terrible. I don't ever want to work that. And I didn't include unknown horrors because that doesn't really count, because you just like, you know, it doesn't really count. But yeah, so the job I feel is not that bad compared to the rest. I think it might go to the Penal Legion Overseer. Yeah, because like the person said, you can control like these band of misfits, like these criminals, which I don't know, like, is like petty crimes. You just don't do something that goes against the Emperor. Does that count? I don't know, but it seems like you yourself, the Overseer, you don't really like have to suffer compared to the actual Penal Legion that like run into battle. It's a brutal job to do because you gotta oversee these people that are like, I don't want to fight, or murderers. You gotta deal with them. But you yourself are not well, you might be participating in battle, but you're like you're controlling them, which could be bad, which could be good. But it sounds way better than the rest on this list. Alright, now number 9. Let's see. I think number 9 might be Guardsmen. Or it could be the Starship Refuelers, because if the Starship Refuelers, because he said in the video that when you're carrying the coffin, there's like some pain, what do we call it? Basically, stuff like you feel less pain resistance, not pain resistance, pain tolerance stuff inside of you that like maybe you won't feel like your body falling apart, maybe you won't feel that. But it's also, I think it's a one-time job too. And also, your job has a purpose. People are actually thankful of you. Appreciative of your job. So I might put that at number 9. I know it's a weird pick. If you still feel the pain, it's definitely going up. If you don't, then I'm putting it at number 9. Starship Refueler is number 9. Alright, next up, it might be Guardsmen. I was thinking about the feudal peasants, but it might be Guardsmen. At least your death is kind of quick, but people don't remember you though. People don't remember you, they forget about you. I don't know. Sorry, this is hard. I'm gonna go with the feudal peasants, because at least everyone's suffering together, you know. It's during that time period everyone was suffering. That's just living. That's just living right there. And then at 7, my fault, 7. We're gonna put Guardsman at number 7. It's the 7th worst job, because you can die quickly, but you also see some horrible things. But they don't tell your family that you're dead. If you show like hesitance, you just get shot by your superior. It's not a good job. Again, these are not good jobs, but some are better than the others, I feel like. If I were in that situation, what would I pick? Alright, now here's where things get a little bit difficult. What would be number 6? I know it's number 1. It's easy for me. But what would be number 6? This is where things get a little dicey. I want to put Psyker at number 6, because because there's 2 options you can have. Either the first option you get on the black ship, I forgot what happens if you're sitting on the black ship, like why you get sent there. But the second option is you get fed to the Emperor basically to keep him alive. But you feel a lot of pain. But the Manufacturum and the Argery Labor are also pretty bad too, and like what you're doing there. I'm gonna go with Manufacturum. I don't know, I'm iffy between this one and the Labor. At least you're building stuff for mankind, maybe, I don't know, like what actually you're manufacturing them, but at least it serves a purpose, I guess you can say. Number 5, I think I would give it to, is it Psychers or is it Labor? Or is it Administratium? Do I want to be bored for the rest of my life? Don't want to like make these horrible food things? I might be... Okay, got it. I got it. Put Psyker at number 5. There we go. 4th one has to go with Administratium. It has to be. It has to. I think so. Because again, you don't know if what you're doing is serving purpose. You're doing the same task over and over and over again. You gotta make sure it's detailed and precise. But with a Psyker, at least if you pick the later option, you're like helping the Emperor, kind of. But you will be experiencing a lot of pain though. That's a lot of pain. But it's also like a one-time job thing. But if you get the other half, the first half, which is like you get some of the black ships, you just other people are like screaming in your head. It's not good. It's not good. That's why it's higher up on the list. Now, number 3. Oh, yeah, easy. Okay. Number 3 is definitely the agri labor, because the person said you're making these food things. You don't know what you might be seeing. Probably some horrible things. Number 2, servitors. Yep, 100% servitors. It's the fact that they give you a lobotomy and mind wipe you, and they force you to do things, but you might still have some memories of like your past, but you can't like say anything or do anything because again, you're being controlled. And number one, I don't know about you guys, but it was when I first heard about this, like what they do to you, I'm like, oh, this is going number one for sure. Is the Eversor Assassins. Yep, they are number one. What they make you do is crazy. It's always these darn trials. They make you do some heinous, some crazy stuff for these trials against your will. And then like, all right, but wait, there's more. And they gotta inject you with all the assassin hero stuff that you might not even survive. And then they still drug you out, put you in cryo state. It's too much. It's too much. That's definitely the worst job. But yep, this is my list for the top 10 worst jobs. Do note that this is based on the video because I don't know like more about these jobs. Yeah, let me know what your top 10 is from the video. Like, what would you rank these? Because I think, because like midway through, I was like, I don't know where I rank these, but Eversor Assassin being number one and the Penal Legion Overseers, I feel confident about those two. In terms of like, what's the best, worst job and what's the worst that was stupid what I just said, but yeah, that was a fun, subjective, fun video. Can you call that a fun video? We just heard a lot of darkness and just it's not going good for the humans. It was a video. It was definitely a video that we watched. Let me give that a like because that was very interesting. I do want to see part 2 to see like how they scale compared to the one we just watched, like how bad does it get. But yeah, this was fun. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Again, let me know in the comments below. How would you rank these jobs? And let me know if we should watch part 2. Because I kind of want to watch it. But yeah, thank you for watching. MyCupOfTea is out of here. Deuces, everybody. Man, humans, man. Humans are just bad people. I want to be born as an orc. Because orcs have fun. They just be having fun. They would just be causing mayhem. I like that. Simple life for an orc. No craziness here. I don't want to do it. I do not want to do it.